What could have been episode 1, season 1. This series I was going to start in April, but I just realized that I want to start my talking with Josh again in April. My podcast thing that I usually do. This is called What Could Have Been. This is kind of more of a perspective into retail and other things that could have been proposed, that were proposed in my era but never happened. What could have been episode 1, we're going to be covering the mall called the Great Northern Mall Factory Outlet that was supposed to be near the Canadian border, in between Canadian border and Champlain, New York. It was a mall that was proposed back in the early 90s. It was a mall that was supposed to be like a center, like a bigger outlet mall than the mall that they also built the Miramar, and that's also what we're going to cover here as well, the Miramar Factory Outlet. That's another topic I'm going to be talking about in just a couple of minutes. Now, the Great Northern Mall, I believe that's what it was called, but it was another mall that was proposed in the Champlain area, Champlain, New York, and I know there's another Champlain here in the United States, but Champlain, New York, we're talking about. And this mall was proposed because back in the early 90s and the late 80s, early 90s, there was a big, even into the mid 90s and late 90s, there's a big economic boom, if you would say, or economic boom. And the Canadians' dollar was strong for the Canadians to come down, and the American dollar was strong, and the traffic up here was more than the traffic in New York City was. And that's why McDonald's up here is so popular, and a lot of times people call it the most popular McDonald's in the world because it's like the most northern McDonald's that there is, besides like Alaska or something. And so McDonald's was getting an economic boom because they just opened and they were getting so popular in the area. It wasn't just the locals, it was the tourists coming from Florida and the South, and people coming from Canada, and people from Vermont and beyond. And for a while, this area was a big economic boom, like I said, and many shopping centers were proposed. Even a Walmart was also proposed back in the early 2000s because Walmart is becoming a popular chain up in the Northeast. And even a Walmart, like I said, even a Walmart was proposed up here, but that never happened. There's never plans for that, but there was a proposal for that to happen. And Walmart was but there's a Walmart in Plattsburgh that's not that far away. But there was a Walmart that's supposed to be up this way, like, up in Champlain. And that was also a thought that people were thinking, was Walmart was going to come in and be another retailer, and they're also thinking about putting more grocery stores in, and a hotel, and a couple hotels, and more restaurants, and it was supposed to be kind of like a mini city up this way. And that was the mid 90s, early 90s, late 80s, even into the late 90s. It was so many of years. It was about like 20 years of economic boom, and then the Canadian dollar went down in the early 2000s, and it made the area stop all those proposals, and most of the area went dead for quite a while. And we got a Price Chopper, but that's really all what we got, and we got a Dollar General, and it's slowly starting to creep back up to an economic boom again, but it's not like it was. There's no proposals for malls. There's really no proposals for anything, big, other than like maybe a couple gas stations or something, or a couple dollar stores, if you would say. But there's no proposals for anything big at this moment. And I don't think there ever will be another proposal for a mall or whatever. But anyway, and then that mall got out of fruition. They didn't build it, even dig They just had a proposal for that mall, and that mall was never built. And then a year or two later, the Miramar factory outlet was built, and that was supposed to be the mall, if you would say. And then it opened up in the 1993 or 1994 with GNC, a couple clothing stores, technology store, and other stores that were in there. I mean, I wasn't born when that mall was open, but I seen a video on Hometown Cable, which is a local guy named by Calvin Castine, and kind of is a pioneer of videos of recording in the North Country up here. Calvin Castine of Hometown Cable, so go subscribe to him. He does a lot of videos of the northern tier of New York and Vermont. And anyway, Calvin Castine and the late great his helper Bob Venn of What's Going On Here every Sunday night with Bob Venn was at the opening of the Miramar factory outlet. And if you want to go see it, it's over on Hometown Cable. Type in capital WGOH, What's Going On Here with Bob Venn Miramar. Miramar is MIROMAR. And you can see a video of the Miramar factory outlet opening in the early 90s. And you can see all the stores that were listed there. I don't know how many others, I don't know the names of all the stores, but there wasn't no major department store, but when it opened, there was very, very big excitement for that mall. It was called the Miramar factory outlet. It wasn't really a mall. It was more of a factory or a shop. It was more of a outdoor mall. And they had a little eatery in there, Main Street Eatery, I guess that's what it was called. And it was doing good. And there was plans to put phase 1 or phase 2 and phase 3 in there with more stores and probably bigger department stores. And that was there was even a traffic light that was proposed next to. There was even a traffic light that was next to the mall because the traffic was so busy. It was more busy than ever in that area, just in this small little area. It was so busy because you had Canadians and locals coming out of there, and there's so much traffic in that area. They wanted to build more lights and everything. And there was gas stations going up, and hotels were proposed, and there's a McSweeney's that was across the street. It was called Steamy's. Before that, it was a guy from Montreal that came down and made a restaurant, the old Dairy Queen. And it's called Steamy's, and then he sold out to McSweeney's because he was, I don't know, retiring or something. And after Steamy's, it became a Burger King. Or McSweeney's after it became that was a Burger King for a while. Now it's closed. And there was a gas station next, a Petro Canada gas station across the way, and it was with a Dunkin' Donuts and some other eatery that was supposed to be in there, and then McDonald's was across the street. That was built before the mall was built, and then there's a mobile gas station, and there's more gas stations down the way, and a couple restaurants, and then the early 2000s came around, and like I said, the Canadian cash, the Canadian currency went down, and the mall closed in 2000. Miramar factory outlet closed for the last time. The last store to close was Famous Footwear, and if you go on Hometown Cable, the Miramar closes in 2000. You can see Calvin Castine was there talking to the owner or the manager of the Famous Footwear, and that was their last store that was there. And that mall has been vacant ever since. Now, although the Border Patrol or the Customs, they use that as like a little facility for their, just, I don't know why, they just use that to park their cars and stuff, and they use that for, they just sit there for security and to well, not security, but they just sit there to I don't know, eat lunch or something. I don't know what they do, but they have their business there. They don't have a business there, but I think they just use that as like their other facility or something. I don't know what they do there, and that's kind of the only thing that's been there since. And there's been proposals to demolish the Miramar Mall, and because it's just rotting away and everything, it's the color of the mall. It's like a very weird pink. It's a pink and white color, and another reason why that mall failed is because the mall was faced towards Canada. And I think that's what the original idea was, but nobody knew that mall was there. Well, a lot of people did, but when you're in Plattsburgh, the mall was facing this way. The mall was like this. It was a Miramar. It was a C basically, and it went like this, and it's still like this. But the mall was like this, and then right here in the back of the mall was McDonald's, and this side, but it was facing towards Canada. So when the Canadians came down, they could see the mall, but there was no other people. When they came from Plattsburgh, coming towards New York City, people coming from New York City, they couldn't see what the mall was. There's no real sign there, and they didn't know what that was. They probably thought it was maybe a factory or something, and that's another reason why the mall failed, because it was facing the wrong way. And it was probably traffic as well. There's too much traffic in that area, and the stores that were there were very expensive. And a lot of people that were locals couldn't afford their prices. So a lot of people would just go to Plattsburgh or go to Ames or go to the other shopping center to go shopping, because that mall was too expensive for the locals, because we don't have that much money. You think like there's a person that's going to go to a little gift shop or something there at the mall, and there's some people that went there and they had, but a lot of people couldn't afford it because it was a very expensive mall. Or not expensive, but it was not really, if you would say, a couple more dollars, you could just fill your car up with gas and go to Plattsburgh to go to the malls down there, because at that time there was two malls in Plattsburgh, the Champlain Center North and the Champlain Center South, or it was called Pyramid Mall before it was built, but you could just go to Plattsburgh and go shopping, and it would have been more cheaper to just go to Plattsburgh. So that's another reason why that mall failed. And like I said, it was facing the wrong way. So Canadians could see it, but Americans that were coming down from Plattsburgh, Peru, New York, AuSable, even New York City, couldn't see the mall because it was facing the wrong way. There was no indication that there was a mall there. McDonald's was obstructing the view. McDonald's was right in the way. And it just failed because of all that. There's three things why it failed. The Canadian dollar went down, and I think that was really the reason why it went. The Canadian dollar went down, the currency. The local people couldn't afford to buy stuff there, really, and the mall was facing the wrong way. And also, there was another shopping center that was just a couple miles away. It was the Champlain Shopping Center. It had the post office and everything. They had an Ames. They had Ames department store. They had a Payless shoe store. They had the Grand Union grocery store. They had a dollar store. They had Brooks Pharmacy, liquor store. You name it. They had everything in that shopping center. That was another competitor to that mall. So the locals would go to that shopping center instead of going to the mall, because that shopping center had low prices, because Ames is a very discount store. Grand Union was the grocery store. And then, Brooks was the pharmacy. And then Brooks became Kinney's. Ames became Price Chopper grocery store. And Grand Union eventually became Ace Hardware. And it was split between Ace Hardware and Dollar Tree. And so all that's the reason why that mall, another reason why that mall, probably the fourth reason why that mall failed, because there's competition. And they also had competition from the Plattsburgh malls a little bit. Even though the Plattsburgh malls weren't really that close, they still had competition to those malls because those malls had major retailers in them. Even though those had bigger retailers, like Ames, Hills, Montgomery Ward, JCPenney, Sears, you name it. So that's another reason why the mall failed. That's probably the fifth reason. And that mall failed. The other mall wasn't even built. It was proposed. There was blueprints for it, but it wasn't even built. But the Miramar was built. And it still stands there. And I want to do a video, but, because the Border Patrol's there, I'm not going to do a video. It's not worth doing a video. The Border Patrol has like a little operation thing there or something. I don't know what they do there, but they're there. So. And the mall is just rotting away. The other day I seen a door on it open. I think it was probably just to let it air out. It's probably moldy and everything in there. It's been sitting there for 20 years or so, vacant. 21 years because 2000 was 21, I think 21 years ago or something. So it's been sitting there since 2000. I never went to that mall. I heard stories of that mall. I was not even born when that mall went out. Oh yeah, I was born when that mall went out of business, but I never visited it. I just heard stories of it, like how expensive it was for local people to go there, and how the mall was facing the wrong way. So anyway, this is what could have been episode 1, season 1. Thanks for watching, and peace. So I'm going to do another video next Friday of this series. Different time too, because next Friday will be working, but like probably at night.